'cause I'm a fool for your love.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing a detailed step-by-step tutorial on how to achieve a classic, somewhat glam, I guess you consider this full glam, bridal look on a client. So let's get started. We're jumping in right into skincare. I do want to point out, yes, I'm wearing a mask. Obviously with coronavirus, I'm going to be very cautious moving forward with any clients that I do have. Just because you can never be too careful, and I did thoroughly wash my hands right before starting her makeup, so sanitation is super important to me and it should be very important to you. So I did start off with a toner, and I use the GlamGlow exfoliating toner, and then I went in with a serum, and then I'm applying the Embryolisse moisturizer just to really moisturize the skin. Now I'm going in with a little bit of eye cream with a tiny little like blending kabuki brush just to buff that underneath the eyes. I always like to apply some sort of eye cream. Nothing too heavy though. I like to keep it pretty thin and lightweight, but I do feel like applying a little bit of an eye cream always helps with the application of concealer, and I always bake, well, not always, but a lot of times I do bake my clients with powder, so I want to make sure that their under eye area is really hydrated. Now going into brows, she has some really nice full brows, so I wanted to keep them that way. I didn't want to make them, you know, super carved out or anything like that. I just went in with a little bit of a brow pencil. I used my favorite pencil, which is the Precisely My Brow by Benefit. I believe it was in shade 3. And now I'm using the Plouise Blank Canvas base to carve out the brows. I love this stuff for carving out brows because it's pretty thick and opaque, so it just covers up any, it basically disguises any hairs that they may have that they didn't have a chance to tweeze. And yeah, I love that stuff. So I did apply a little bit of it on the inner and outer corner of the eye because I do like to bring my eyeshadow outwards towards the temples, just because that's how I like to apply shadow. And obviously on the inner corner of the eye, there tends to be a little bit of darkness in there, so I like to cancel that out with the primer. And now I'm going in with the regular Plouise base. I believe it was in shade 1, and I'm just buffing that out. With this product, you definitely want to make sure you take your time buffing it out. You don't want to just apply it really quickly and then go directly in with shadow because it is very tacky, very wet. So you want to make sure you really buff it into the skin and kind of give it a second to set a little bit. I did take the tiniest bit of concealer just to carve out the top of the brow, just because I don't like when you just see bare skin above the brow and then foundation. So I always like to apply a little bit of concealer up there, not necessarily to carve out her brows and sculpt them out even more, but just because I hate when there's like a gap of, you know, the foundation and then you see a little bit of bare skin above the brow. I don't know. To me, it's very noticeable. I don't even know if that makes sense to you guys, but I did go ahead and highlight the brow bone. I just used the lightest shade from the Makeup with Jaw Clientele palette by Bhcosmetics. And now I'm going in with the Coulourpop Bare Necessities palette, which is one of my favorite bridal palettes, and I'm basically just going in with some of the lighter browns in that palette and buffing them into the crease, really focusing on the outer corner. Obviously that's where I kind of want the drama, and yeah, just focusing that as a transition shade. And then I'm going in with a little bit of a tinier brush and packing on a darker brown to start to deepen up this look a little bit. As you can see, I do bring my shadow far out. Like I was saying before, the reason why I bring the primer outwards is because I do like to blend my eyeshadow outwards towards the temples. Obviously, once I go in with concealer and foundation, you're not really going to see that shadow there. But for me, it just creates a much more blended overall look. Rather than just stopping it right at the end of the eye, it also helps kind of elongate the eye a little bit and and make her eyes look a little bit more almond shaped. But anyways, I just took a much darker brown and I took a little tiny blending brush and I focused that against the lash line, the base of the lash line at the outer corner, and brought it into the crease a little bit to start to deepen up this look a lot more. And then I'm taking the lightest shade from the Juvias Place Warrior palette, which is such a stunning palette, and I'm packing that on the lid. And then I went in with the Jlarue Cosmetics glitter in white gold. I did use my NYX glitter primer first. I just pat that on very lightly on top of the champagne color that we applied from the Juvia's Place palette, and then I took the glitter and again very lightly packed that on. You don't want to be too heavy-handed with this. You want to take your time because you don't want it to go on super chunky or anything like that. I like to kind of layer the glitter and get it to the intensity that I want. I don't like to start off super intense because again it can kind of just like chunk up and not look super smooth. But I love those glitters. They're amazing. I ordered them this past week and I am obsessed with them already. Now I'm going in with the NYX liquid liner, the matte version, and I'm just using a disposable eyeliner wand. What I do is I take some of the liner, put it on a palette, and then I just dip into the palette with my disposable wand, because you don't want to contaminate your eyeliner by dipping in the disposables over and over again. It just kind of defeats the purpose. But I'm just doing a really nice wing, and with this, I haven't done a wing in so long, so I definitely took my time with this and perfected it, and it's okay. Wings are always going to be a little bit intimidating, so take your time with them. It's okay. You know, it basically practice makes perfect. But I'm just taking a little bit of black liner, running that on the upper waterline, and then I decided to go in with the Inglot number 77 gel liner, which is another great black liner, and I'm just layering that on top of the NYX liner just to really deepen it and make it more intense and sharper. And also it's just going to help it last longer. I feel like it just kind of seals everything in. Now I'm going in with primer, and since she has combination skin, I wanted to use two different primers. So she said that she definitely gets drier on the cheek areas and outer parts of her face, and then a little bit more oily on the T-zone. So I went in with the Milk Hydrating Grip Primer, the green one, and I applied that on the outer portions of her face, and then I took the Benefit Hydrating Professional and I put that on the center of her face. And I really love this Makeup Forever paddle brush here because it's very flat and dense, so you really can push the primer into the skin. I really love the Benefit Professional Hydrating Primer because it does hydrate the skin, but it doesn't leave it dewy, but it also fills in pores. Not a lot of hydrating primers fill in pores, but also hydrate the skin. So I really have been loving that primer for clients. Well, before quarantine, I was loving it. Obviously, I haven't really used it in a while, but anyways, I'm going in with the Face Atelier foundation. You guys know my love for this. I just did a video dedicated to this foundation and reviewed it for you guys because I've been using it for years. I'm using shade 6, and what I love about this foundation is you really can customize it to the client. You can make it super full coverage, you can make it very light coverage, and it layers very nicely with other products. You will see throughout this tutorial, I definitely layer my products, and it may look like a lot of makeup, but it's actually not. If you go in with thin layers one at a time, you're actually not applying as much makeup as you think. So I apply a very light layer of foundation, and then I work my way, you know, to the highlight and contour. But again, I just use thin layers of everything, and it creates such a beautiful look to the skin, and it's not cakey. If you're going to be very heavy-handed with every single step throughout this process, yes, you will get cakiness, but again, you just got to be light-handed. So I did apply the foundation all the way down to the neck to match the chest, also on the ears, any area that's going to be showing pretty much. And then I went in with the MAC Pro Conceal palette, one of the peachy colors, just to color correct that under eye area. I wanted to neutralize the darkness underneath her eyes, and obviously a peach tone will help do that. So before going with concealer, I did want to color correct underneath her eyes. And now I'm going in with the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Cream Foundation. So I'm using the Cream Foundation palette, which I love, and I'm going to take some of the lighter shades in that palette to highlight the forehead, bridge of the nose, top of the lip, Also on the lip, I've been into highlighting and contouring lips because a makeup artist that I took some classes from over quarantine, she always does that, and now I'm really into that. So then I'm taking a darker shade from that palette and contouring. I do like to bring my contour actually slightly above the natural contours of her face. I feel like it lifts the face, and I always like to curve it at the cheek because it, I don't know, just gives her cheek, like it makes them pop a little bit more rather than making her face super angular and just doing straight lines. She has a smaller forehead, so I'm only going to contour the sides of her forehead, not the whole thing. And then I'm also contouring the jawline, just to chisel the jaw and the chin as well, and also the lips. So basically everywhere. Gotta love a good contour, and I have to say these Makeup Forever Ultra HD Cream Foundations are amazing for highlighting and contouring. They just blend really nicely, especially with the Face Atelier foundation. I do want to mention, when you're contouring the nose, don't forget to bring it up towards the inner portion of the brow. Don't just stop it on the bridge of the nose. It's much more natural looking when you bring it up towards the brow. But now I'm taking the Dose of Colors concealer in, I believe it was shade Light 7 or Light 10. I can't remember. I'm just using a concealer brush to apply it. At this point, you guys should not be applying any concealer directly from the wand to the face. You know, we've all done it in the past, but now it's just so important to be as sanitary as possible. So I'm only applying my products with a brush or disposable, wand or something like that. So now I'm just taking a little, what is this? A little beauty blender, a mini one. I do want to mention, I'm actually considering getting rid of my beauty blenders for right now, just because sponges do hold a lot of bacteria. And I was just going to use disposables, but I've tried the disposables and they just don't work as well. So I just really made sure that I sanitize these beauty blenders. I washed them 2 times with antibacterial soap and even sprayed them with alcohol. So just be very careful. So I'm just using this mini little sponge to blend out the highlighted areas, and then I'll switch my sponge to the sponge I was using before to blend out the contoured areas. While I'm blending this out, you will see this Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation just blends super nicely, but I do want to mention some other favorite cream contour products for me. If I'm going for, again, more of like a full coverage look like I am today, I'll use the Mayron Highlight and Contour Cream Palette. That's a great one. The Graftobian or RCMA palettes are great. And if I'm going for a really quick contour, then I will just use the Huda Beauty Tantour, because that isn't necessarily a foundation, it's just a cream contour. So it's not going to add coverage, but it is going to add shadow and color to the face. So that's a great one that I like to use on like bridesmaids and stuff when I don't have a ton of time to do like a full highlight and contour routine. I did go in with a little bit of the Era Beauty Spray Airbrush Foundation just to kind of seal everything in and like mesh everything together and make sure it's all super blended. I'll be honest, I am not a huge fan of this foundation by itself. I know so many artists I know personally that love it. I just haven't had the greatest experience with it. So I like to just kind of use it here and there, like mixed with other products, and then I like it. Then it looks beautiful. I think, you just have to kind of make it work for you. So I just used a little bit of it just to kind of like seal everything in and, like I said, blend everything. So before going into setting the underneath the eyes, you definitely want to make sure you blend out any creasing under there. And I'm just taking I took the Charlotte Tilbury Airbursh Flawless shade 1 powder just to lightly set underneath the eyes before going in with baking powder. I find by lightly setting with a powder and then going in with baking powder, it doesn't cake up underneath the eyes. If you go directly on top of a wet concealer with a ton of heavy powder, such as the Huda Beauty Sugar Cookie, which is what I'm using right now, it can kind of look a little bit cakey. So I like to set with a light layer of powder and then go on top of that light layer of powder with the baking powder. I don't know, it just works so much better. So I apply that underneath the eyes, on the bridge of the nose, any area that I highlighted, and then I'm taking the same Charlotte Tilbury powder, but in the shade medium, and I'm applying that on all the areas that I'm not baking at the moment. And then I took the Kylie bronzer in shade Toasty just to start bronzing up the skin and adding some definition and color back into the face. I'm just taking this little Morphe brush. You can see it's just like a little dense square brush, and this is the perfect nose contouring brush. I do not know the number off the top of my head, but I'll be sure to list it in the description box because it just makes contouring the nose so easy. It's just the perfect little shape. So I'm just taking the Khaki shade in the Kylie bronzer, which is lighter than the Toasty shade. It's also a little bit of a cooler tone, and I was using that to contour the nose, and now I'm just starting to wipe away that baking powder. I love this little brush by Real Techniques. It's the best brush for setting underneath the eyes or dusting away baking powder because it's really like just tiny and precise, and I love it. And it's really inexpensive, so can't beat that. So now I'm just dusting all of that away, all of that powder away, and now I'm applying some blush. I just used this NARS blush palette, and I just took the pink shade. Obviously, I went a little ham with the blush, but I personally like to apply more blush than normal, just because blush is one of the first things to fade, I find, and especially with brides, they have their makeup on for so long, so you want to make sure that their blush is actually noticeable. And sometimes it may look noticeable in person, but if you go to take a photo, they'll look washed out. So just make sure, before you really finish up the look, to make sure to take some pictures, even if it's throughout the process, just so you can make sure that it's actually showing up in photos, because you don't want your client to look like they have like no blush on. I did go in with a little bit of the MAC contour powder from the Shade and Light palettes, and now I'm taking the Emphasize powder, which I'm going to apply underneath the eyes to really brighten. I love this stuff. I've been using it the last year and a half probably. I'm obsessed with it. It's great. It really brightens up the under eye area, and I just applied it basically anywhere that I highlighted. But yeah, it's just a great brightening powder, and it just kind of finishes off that under eye area. It's really nice. And now I'm going to highlight with the Dior Backstage highlighting palettes. I do love this palette. I know it's really popular right now. Is it the best highlighter I've ever used? No, but I like it. It's pretty. It's very soft on the skin, and it doesn't really accentuate texture. So yeah, it's good, and I'll continue to use it because it does look really pretty. But I'm just taking the lightest shade and just highlighting the high points of her face. I did go ahead and apply some lashes. I just used the just some random mink lashes from AliExpress. That's where I get a lot of my mink lashes, or Amazon. I have a few on Amazon that I love, and they're like my go-tos. But yeah, these were just some random ones from AliExpress, and I just popped those on. They're pretty dramatic, but I feel like they suited the look really nicely. Moving on to lips, I'm using one of my all-time favorite lip liners for years, which is Bhcosmetics Nude Lip Liner. I just find it is like the perfect like pinky brown lip liner for a nude lip, and the formula of this is really easy to apply. It's super creamy, and it's very, very long lasting. So I love this, and it's so inexpensive. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. And then I just took a little bit of concealer, and I'm just cleaning up the edges just to make it look a little bit cleaner. And I did slightly overline her lips. I didn't go super crazy overlining, but I did overline them a little bit. Now I'm going in with Naked by ABH Liquid Lip and Anastasia Beverly Hills, and this is a great like peachy nude. and since it's a liquid lipstick, it's obviously going to last a lot longer than a traditional lipstick. I typically like to use liquid lipsticks on my brides, and then if they want gloss, I'll apply a gloss on top of a liquid lip just because it lasts so much longer. And then I did want to brighten and lighten the inner portion of the lips just to make the lips a little bit poutier. And for that, I'm using the Stylize lip vinyl, and that is in the shade, I want to say Tequila Talking. So it's a very nice pale nude pink, and it's super pigmented. It is technically a gloss, but I would call it more of like a hybrid between a lipstick and a gloss. I really like that. And then I went in with the Coulourpop plumping gloss, and I do not remember the shade, but it was basically just like a sheer pinky iridescent gloss. For the waterline, I'm going to be using the NYX, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it's basically just like a skin tone eyeliner. It's just like a cream color. This is really going to open up the eyes. I typically like to use this on brides rather than like a black eyeliner, but it's obviously all about personal preference. So I just apply that to the waterline, and then I'm taking one of the brown shadows that I used in the crease and buffing that on the lower lash line. And then I do go in to highlight the inner corner, and to do that, I just use the same color that I used on the brow bone, which again was from the Makeup with Jaw Clientele palette. And I just applied that with a little tiny brush just to brighten up the inner corner of the eyes. I always do this on clients and on myself. I just feel like it just brightens everything up. And then I'm going in with mascara, of course, with a disposable spoolie, and I'm just applying that on the upper and lower lash line. And of course, you're going to want to do any last minute touch-ups. I always, just touch everything up at the end. Like I just apply a little bit more glitter and just made sure I was really satisfied with the look. I recommend at this point maybe take some pictures, see if there's anything you want to tweak or change. Obviously things can look different in photos than they do to the, raw eye. But then to seal everything in, I use my Smashbox Photo Finish setting spray. I really been liking this. I feel like it really does actually lock everything in, and it actually does work. But that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions at all in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer, and give this video a thumbs up if you want more videos like this. Also, don't forget to go follow me on Instagram to see all my client photos. But yeah, thanks so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.